One of the things about being a dad or being a husband, father, or whatever in the situation I'm in, nothing is yours. Your time is not yours. Your money is not yours. Your house is not, like, nothing is yours. And that's fine. But this depression or this thing I struggle with, this secret that I keep, it's mine. Only thing in my life that's mine.
Hey there, my name is Sean, and this is Suicide Noted. On this podcast, I talk with suicide attempt survivors and ideators so that we can hear their stories. Every year around the world, millions of people try to take their own lives. So many more come close or thinking about it or ideating or moving in that direction. And we almost never talk about it. We certainly don't talk about it enough, not nearly enough. And when we do talk about it, when I say that, I mean when we do engage with people in that kind of pain, we're not very good at it. Most of us are really bad at it. So one of my goals with this podcast is to have more conversations and hopefully better conversations and keep having these conversations with survivors, in large part to help more people in more places hopefully feel a little less shitty and a little less alone. Now, if you are a suicide attempt survivor or someone who thinks about it or has thought about it, really thought about it, I'd love to talk. Please reach out. hello@suicidenoted.com. There are a number of ways you can support the podcast or get involved. Check the show notes, the podcast description, or our website if you want to learn more about that. We are rather low on resources. We do the best we can to produce this podcast. Sometimes it's once a week, sometimes it's twice a week. And we've got all kinds of other projects in mind, really solid projects, but we do need some help. So check that out if you can. Either way, I'm glad you're here. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. But do keep in mind, we are talking about suicide here, as we do every Monday or whenever I release the episodes, usually Mondays and sometimes Thursdays. My guests and I do not hold back. So please take that into account before you listen or as you listen. But I do hope you listen, because there's so much to learn. Today I am talking with D. D lives in Canada, and he is a near suicide attempt survivor. D, how's it going?
Good. You look different than I assumed you would.
I'm better looking? Say it.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, you are.
Appreciate it. I'm sure this probably will come up as we talk, but what is the hesitation to talk, to share name and place?
I've never talked about this before with anybody. And because online, like, I've got kind of an online self, you know, in a few worlds, I'm well known. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know if it's something I'm ready to be open about.
Makes sense. I mean, I appreciate you giving that, especially being okay with talking with me. That's cool. Thank you.
It's like anything. I think if I were to be open about this to that degree, I think there would be a lot of people who appreciated the vulnerability, but at the same time, there's a fear there, right? There's a stigma.
Hell yeah.
So
let's not bullshit anyone about that. Fuck yeah. And there's a risk. Yeah. You're right. It's ridiculous, but I don't get to make those rules. So D in Canada, you are a suicide attempt survivor.
Not a survivor, an ideator.
How long have you been ideating?
I don't know, as a youth, maybe, probably as a youth. Started as a youth with low self-esteem, and then as life gets harder, life gets stressful, you know, life, work, kids, family, wife, life puts weight on you, and it gets thicker and thicker, and so I think probably started as a youth, and I guess now as an adult, it's something I kind of battle every day. And I feel unjustified in a lot of this stuff because I grew up in a pretty idyllic family, amazing parents. We were never... You know, we weren't rich, but we weren't poor. We never really struggled financially. There was no trauma, no abuse, no drama, the perfect ideal family. And so growing up, I dealt with ADD in elementary school and junior high. And even that, I mean, that was kind of like a whole new thing that nobody had ever experienced before. And of course, this is in like the 80s and 90s. The teachers and stuff at the time were kind of like, this kid's bouncing off the walls, you know, give this kid some pills and shut him up and sit in the corner, stop interrupting the class. Whereas my parents were really awesome in the sense of, let's figure this out. Don't shut up and sit in the corner. You still need to be who you are, but, you know, let's find a way to focus your energy. My parents were always really awesome that way and really supportive, really encouraging of the fact that, like, this isn't a weakness. It's not a disorder. This is a gift. There's still something that comes along with it, that seems to be attached to depression, I think. I mean, in a similar way that creativity seems to be attached with depression. And yeah, as life gets harder, life gets stressful, I mean, that grows into different things. As an adult, that's kind of where it's come to, I guess.
You'd said earlier it started in your youth, the ideating, that's the word. When you say ideating, I don't necessarily mean the degree to which you ideate, which we can certainly bring. I'm curious about, but like, what is happening in your brain? I assume it's mostly sort of brain-based, right? Because it's like a thought. What is Dee's brain saying or doing that it feels like this is ideating? Not that you're necessarily identifying it in the moment it's happening, but nonetheless.
A lot of it is based in the sense of, if something were to go wrong, instead of being mad at a situation or mad at somebody, I turn that inside. I'm an idiot. Look what I've done. This is my fault. That started as a youth and still carries on. I mean, still carries on to this day. I go inside of myself. So ideating in the sense of like wanting to die. I don't want to die like so many of your other guests have said. It's more just even not so much as like I want to stop existing or I want the pain to go away, because again, I didn't grow up and I don't have any drama or trauma in my life that I'm trying to hide from or run from or get rid of. And that's, I think, the hardest part for me is there's no incident or thing like that I'm trying to run from or get rid of. It's just a constant feeling of not being good enough, or not going to measure up, or not worthy of those blessings that I have.
That begs the question, though. So there's so many podcasts on depression, ADD or ADHD. You looked for a podcast, I assume, or maybe it just popped up in your feed with the word suicide, which is a whole other ballgame. And then you wanted to talk about it. So there's a disconnect here that I'm not seeing, that I'm not trying to push back so hard, but why the interest in looking for a podcast around that? And then I guess this is a two-parter, like reaching out and I guess even more so showing up to talk about it.
What's interesting is I've been able to see, looking back, I can see the progression. I can see a progression over my life of starting with, as a youth, just general sadness or misunderstood sadness or whatever, and then not feeling good enough as life gets tough and getting older and, family and kids and whatever, to the point that, there are suicidal thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
There are, like I do as an adult now, struggle with those thoughts from time to time of, they would be better off without me, or like, I don't deserve to be here, or...
And those started for you, as best you can recall, in your adult years.
Yeah, I would say early 30s is when it kind of slowly went from guilt, shame, into what we would call depression. And it comes and go. It came and went, even as a youth. It's not like it was there every single day, all the time.
Right.
It would come and go, right? In school, junior high, the worst years of any kid's life, it was really bad then. In high school, it subsided. In my 20s, it was pretty fine. Get married and have kids and life hits. I find myself back into that, right? And then getting worse.
Yeah, but then there's another part to that. And this might be semantical differences, and we're talking about the same thing, but without knowing this for sure, I'm pretty sure a lot of people who are dealing with depression, they would have suicidal thoughts. So I'm always wondering, anybody who's having suicidal thoughts, at some point, that stuff, all of it, in one moment was like, click, I don't know if I want to be alive. Those are my words, of course.
Again, I don't know if there was ever a click. And again, maybe that is something from my youth that has always followed. It's like music, right? It's just slowly gotten louder and transformed. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, no, I can see. And I imagine it's really fucking frustrating. I only asked that question around the suicidal thoughts because you actually said those words a few minutes ago.
Yeah, well, and even now, when I look in the mirror, I look in the mirror and I have that disdain, I guess. I don't know, maybe that's too strong, but I look in the mirror and I just don't have joy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't look at myself and have joy for myself on a daily basis. Like, I would say that's always. It's neither love nor hate, it's just nothing. But then there are times, they ramp up, no different than I'm sure yourself and a lot of other people. Those feelings will ramp up from time to time based on sometimes nothing, sometimes based on situations, sometimes based on regrets or whatever, where I do find myself, looking in the mirror and saying, like, I hate you. Or laying awake at night and she's sleeping soundly and I'm, weeping myself to sleep, thinking that they'd be better off without me.
Has it ever gotten to the point where you even loosely started planning anything?
Not actively. I mean, again, you lay there at 2 and 3 in the morning and yeah, your brain starts to go to those kinds of places. But to physically put things in place, no.
So you're like in the category, and this is not in the DSM-V diagnosis because that's not my jam, but in this spectrum of what people would call passive suicidal ideation, you're somewhere there, even though it might be on the sort of not as often, not as intense, but it trickles in from time to time. It sounds like.
Yeah, for sure. At the same time, I would say almost every single day, not every day, but almost, probably 5-6 days a week, it's the first thought I have when I wake up. And it's the last thought I have when I go to bed of thinking, you shouldn't be here. You don't deserve to be here. Or you should end this.
For years?
Probably 10 years.
And how old are you?
41. I think what's frustrating about this, about depression or low self-esteem or ideation or whatever, is that it doesn't care about, it's like the plague. The plague, it doesn't care about money. It doesn't care about status. It doesn't care about talent. It doesn't care about relationship. It doesn't care about anything. It just, if you get it, you've got it. And I find that really frustrating. I mean, maybe that adds to some of the guilt or shame about it is that, I live a really idyllic life. I've got an amazing family. We're not rich. We're not poor. I've got a great job, talents that people praise almost daily, which I have a hard time, accepting compliments and always kind of have. I've got amazing kids, an amazing wife. Outside of a mortgage, we carry no debt. 9/10 of the world would kill to have what I have.
Yeah, living a dream, but maybe not.
Like on the outside, it's this Instagram life, but on the inside, there's demons, and those demons have my name.
If I found you on Instagram or another platform, but let's use Instagram, would I, as an average human, not Sean, who is rather obsessed with suicide, be like, this dude's crushing it?
Well, it's Instagram, so everybody thinks that about everybody. But
there are people that let it seep out. And you can tell sometimes, like, oh, no, there's something else going on, and some people are just presenting in a way. And of course, it's contextual, right? If it's like just for work, there would probably be no reason for you to let the other stuff seep out, as opposed to if your Instagram thing was all about depression.
I try not to present to the world, in any form that my life is like flawless and, look at me. And I definitely hide this part of myself for sure, because there is a stigma. Yeah. People look at you differently. People would look at you differently for sure. For me and what I do, yeah, people would be shocked. I think some people would appreciate it. I'm sure a lot of people would appreciate the honesty and things, but at the same time, I don't know if I'm ready to go down that road. I'm not talking just public, but like even my family, my parents, things like that. I keep it to myself.
So, and if people are wondering, because anytime anyone would say like my job or my work, my follow-up question would be, what kind of work do you do? But there's a reason you're not sharing it.
My job is artistic in nature.
We can leave it at that. You also said you don't share this rarely, if at all. So that includes family, nuclear family, parents, kids, wife, friends, coworkers. Does that also include therapists? Maybe can I guess here that you don't see a therapist?
Yeah, I've never talked to anybody about this. Outside of obviously my parents, obviously they were there dealing with this as I was growing up, right? And the lighter parts of it through ADD and their support and stuff. And I saw therapists and things growing up, which was, again, I was a kid. The idea behind therapy is to give you tools you still have to do it all yourself, but it helps to give you tools. Mm-hmm. As a kid, I went to therapists and stuff, and I didn't realize that because I was a kid at the time, right? But, there were things that I learned there, right? It helps me, like for ADD and things, it helps me to make lists and to kind of keep track of my time and things like that. But no, as an adult, I've never seen a therapist. And as an adult, I think my parents, as far as that goes, I would say my parents and family probably I'm sure they assume it's there to some degree, but I manage it no different than I somewhat grew out of my ADD as an adult. And, being able to work with my hands and have an outlet for that, I would assume they feel a similar way about the mindset that I had as a youth.
Human beings like you are so fascinating to me. I'd like to believe I'm fascinated by most, if not all humans, because there was a point a while ago where I started adding, even in the intro, like, not just suicide attempt survivors, but ideators. And one of the reasons I did that is I think it's directly related. And I think it's such a large group of human beings.
Well, this is why I reached out, is because I thought to myself, like, I listened to the podcast. I don't know how many episodes, but I just kind of started at the beginning and just started listening. Almost everybody, pretty much every single one I've listened to, right, is there's some kind of trauma there, right? That this stuff is often based on. And
Mm.
for me, again, I don't feel like I have that, which was strange. And then as a father and a husband and things, I mean, life is hard. Life is put on you. You've got these people to take care of and this life to provide. And I mean, nothing in your life is your own anymore. And I look around and as that, average middle class normal dad, I just thought to myself, like, I can't be the only one thinking these
Oh,
things,
no.
but you don't talk about it. So my wife knows that I deal with this stuff to some degree, but I don't put it all on her because she doesn't need another baby to deal with, which it just
Mm.
sounds really bad. And there's another part of it. And this is why, in general, I think this is why men don't talk and men are left to themselves. And this is why men are such a high number of suicide attempts or, successful. I know you don't like that word.
I'm not sure I ever said I don't like that word. A lot of people say they don't like that word. I am saying neutral, just to be clear.
Okay.
Technically, that is an appropriate way to describe it.
It is.
And I'm very, very wary about word policing. And I understand why people do it, and kids hear it and they get the wrong message. So I'm not averse to that, but I think it's appropriate. Joe.
To be honest, I agree with you. But men don't talk. I think men don't talk because when men talk about their feelings, let's say you talk about your feelings with a woman or someone, a loved one, men don't talk about their feelings because then you have to deal with how your feelings made them feel, right? So oftentimes it's easier to just deal with it yourself.
Probably not easy, though.
Well, no, not easier. I guess, again, wrong word. It's
You're lesser of two evils.
yeah. So again, I don't want to put that burden on her. So again, she knows she knows I struggle, and I'm sure she can tell, when I'm more down than, other times and stuff. But again, it's not something we really talk about unless I really need to bring it up for whatever reason. And even that, and even that reason might be like, I'm just not feeling supported in some way or another, which again, I don't know what that support is. I don't know.
Yeah, like, for
Right, I guess
example,
it
when
would
was
be
the last time you
situational.
had a conversation like that?
Over a month ago, for sure.
So it's not a super frequent thing, and I'm not judging in any
No.
way. I don't know anything about women or family because I'm a middle-aged solo guy who has his own stuff, and so. But it's just I like to think or imagine, like, yeah, what life is like. You're right. There are so many people. I don't have data for sure, in part because it's not really measurable. The irony being that when people don't talk, it's really hard to know that they're not talking, to measure if they're not talking, because they're not talking. We're all just fucking guessing on how many people, whether it's men or otherwise, are not talking about what they're going through, whether it's around suicide or not. But suicide is something, and all the things that surround and swirl around it, where we're just not going to talk about it. And I mean, that includes all the spaces that we think we should, quote, talk about it. And that's one of the reasons the whole podcast exists. And I don't mean to get on some sort of, well, what do you mean that there's no, of course you could talk about it to your friends or your family and a therapist. It's like, well, hold up. Let's examine that for a moment. It's not so straightforward.
I mean, and again, this is kind of why I reached out, or why I started listening to the podcast, was because I wanted to know, you type that word into a podcast player and looking for support, looking for, I guess, I don't know, looking for support, really, I guess. I assume that's why anybody, or justification, maybe justification is a better term.
Yeah, like if you hear somebody that's gone through something that is all similar, that there's something that might be, I don't know. I mean, I ask people why they look, and
I mean, that's why I looked, to look for support, but also justify my feelings, which again is maybe that's stupid. I don't know.
Well, I know that if you feel a certain way and it's not a great feeling and you feel like you're one of the only people dealing with it, even if you know conceptually or theoretically you're not, that's different than hearing somebody, I believe, actually saying shit that resonates. Profoundly different.
We live in a world where everybody is going through something. I mean, like Sunday morning at church is always a hilarious example, because everybody shows up to church in their Sunday best. Kids' hair is done and they're sitting there in the pews and everything looks perfect, and they're all glad handing each other. And that everybody's got a disaster of a life just like you do, whether internally or externally. They rushed out the door and were yelling at their kids and speeding in traffic and avoiding tickets on the way to church. That those relationships are having issues in their sex life or issues in some way, or everybody is dealing with something.
Yep.
But we put on this face. Like on a Sunday morning, we all show up and everybody's got their Instagram best on. Before Instagram, church is the original Instagram. Church is the OG Instagram. What's nice about the podcast is to hear honest people talk about honest things and kind of take down that shield.
It's a pretty simple concept, no? Church is the OGIG is not your memoir title, but that's something to play with. I love it. There's so many people like you, and I don't mean exactly like you, but
I think you're probably right.
I know I'm right, and not to be so arrogant about it, but I am right. And it's, and in particular, there's a few things that I'm speaking of. In or entering middle age, let's talk men, maybe a lot of check the boxes of things are actually seeming pretty good in their life, like the things you mentioned. And sometimes at night, in the morning, whenever, for whatever reasons, they're on that spectrum of suicide ideators. I think that's a huge number. And some of them will stay in that space and white knuckle it forever. Some of them may get better, who knows how, but they'll try. And some of them will go further. And so the passive becomes active. And then some of those people end up doing things to themselves and they don't come back. That's just the reality. It's not to be dramatic. It's not to be antagonistic. That's just the fucking truth. And so, I'm not sure what I can do in that space other than just keep doing this stuff. I'm in that space. There's a big part of what I said that doesn't apply to me in that, I would say 99 out of 100 people would look at our lives just based on what you described and say Sean is more suicide risk than Dave, based on just those on paper things. In terms of me living alone and not having money and drinking too much and all those things, it just skews towards that kind of thinking. But zooming out, there's just so many dudes like us.
And like I say, it's like the plague. It's like the plague. If you get it, you got it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you live in a castle.
Yeah. I think there's two things I think about, and they both come with not a great side. But one thing I think about is if you have money, there might be some resources available to you that if you don't have money, you don't have it. And I don't just mean a high-end therapy or a high-end treatment. I mean getting a massage once in a while helps. So there are little differences with money. And then I think about, because I live alone, being needed is big. But I also know that could come with a certain kind of pressure that could sort of backfire.
That's an interesting concept. That's an interesting thought because, yes, what goes through my head when I have those thoughts at, 2 a.m, I want to do the selfish/selfless thing, right? Like so many people talk about. But then thinking what would my kids do without me? What would my family do without me? Or how would it affect this person? Oftentimes I'll just lay there and run through my head of what is your mom's reaction when she gets that phone call? And your dad's and your friends and your wife's and your kids and and every person I know, you run through that scenario of what is their reaction? And I fall asleep to that often. But like you're saying, I mean, there's also to have, I guess for me, one of the downsides to having that burden of family or being needed is that you feel that is your only purpose. My purpose is to raise the kids and pay the mortgage. I am a tool. Obviously I know that I'm more than that. Everybody is more than that, right? Every soul is a soul and is more than just who their body is or who their situation is. But life will put you in that position and then depression will exacerbate that. For me, I mean, yeah, I know that I'm a lot more than what I think I am to my kids and to my family and to people around me. But really, and I think this is where a lot of men and a lot of dads fall in, is you're a tool. You're a paycheck. You're here to pay the mortgage and raise the kids.
I don't know if it's a grass is greener thing, and I don't even know if I like that expression, but there's probably a lot of people listening, and let's just go with the dads who would say, Sean, I would trade places with you in a fucking heartbeat. No, you don't make a lot of money, but you got a quiet little home. You do whatever you want. That would be like a dream for some people in their lives right now. No pressure. You don't have to provide. And yet for me, having lived this life for a while, I'm like, wouldn't it be cool to be a dad and have this person need my guidance and rely on me, even in part, depending on their age, for survival. That's why I say grass greener.
It's like the summertime, right? When it's blazing hot, 35 degrees out Celsius in the summertime, you think to yourself, man, it'd be really nice if there was a nice cold winter breeze right now and we could slip it. And then mid-winter, mid-February, you're thinking, boy, it would sure be nice if it was a 35-degree day today.
So you're 41. Your kids, I'm guessing, are what? Are they? You got youngish kids, teenagers?
Yeah, young teens.
So you're in it for a while. I mean, I guess you're always going to be in it as a dad, but, you know, in the real, like, throes of it, you should say, you know, they're around all the time. They're probably sometimes a pain in the ass. They need you for this. They need you for that. And good shit, too. Don't get me wrong.
So here's another dichotomy. As much as I love my kids, and every parent loves their kids, and every dad out there, I think, can relate with this of how many times a day you roll your eyes and are just put your head down like, for fuck's sakes. Like, that is also a real thing. As much as you love your kids and kids are great and stuff, like, kids are also a lot of work, and it is unbelievable the amount of times a day I think to myself, are you freaking kidding me? If that's having kids, right?
I don't know. I don't have them. But yeah, it makes sense. I also wonder about the dads out there who lost their kids. And I don't mean to death. I mean to, like, the marriage breaks up, the wife gets custody, or most whatever you call it, majority custody. So they either don't see their kids or they see them once in a while. And obviously, case by case, all these circumstances are different. But when you get into middle age and you're living alone and you might be dating, you might be not, whatever, right? It's going to vary. But, like, that's a tough spot too.
That's the toughest spot ever. I have a friend right now who just got divorced. I called him and I asked him straight out, you know, a couple weeks after they'd separated and things are getting figured out and whatever. He's kind of on his own and having to find, like, bumming from couch to couch and stuff. And I asked him straight out, do you think about suicide? And I've talked about this with my brother. If that happened to me, well, like, he and I talk about this or joke about this, to death before divorce. So when I talked to my friend about it, he's like, yeah, I've thought about it for sure. Mm-hmm. He said, you know, I've come to a realization that still, like, my life's a disaster and whatever, but still I need to be there for my kids and hopefully it will get better.
Yeah. And sometimes it does.
Yeah. And I mean, but again, it's really hard for men. I've heard it put this way, like in divorce or that situation, women get into marriage for different reasons than men get into marriage, right? Women will get into marriage for stability, a place to live, for procreation, right? For children. And men will get into marriage so that they have someone to take care of, someone to provide for, and someone, you know, sex, love, appreciation, right? These reasons. When you get divorced, the woman keeps all of her things. The man loses all of his. He loses the sex. He loses the house. He loses the kids, loses, you know, the love. The woman often keeps the house, keeps the kids, keeps the money, right? So everything that a woman invests in, she keeps. Everything the man has invested in, he loses. So 100%, I can totally understand why when that happens, men have lost everything. And it would take a while to see the light, to come back from that and realize that this is a moment now. This is my life now, but it's not always going to be like this.
I mean, I think some of the things you described aren't always the case, right? These days,
no,
I think sometimes there's more of like a split of assets, but by and large, you're probably right often, right? In terms of who gets what and who loses what. I don't know for sure, but
in general, in the North American society, I think that's the case. Which again, I don't know. I haven't experienced these things. Like, my wife is amazing. Our marriage is like any marriage. It goes up and down and, you know, you have issues and whatever. But overall, I mean, like I said, I don't talk about this kind of stuff with her all the time. But when I have to, I know that I can.
Does she know, or does anybody know that we're talking?
Nobody.
Is anybody going to ever know that we're talking?
No.
Maybe you never know. You never know for sure. Like maybe 5 years down the road. It's possible.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Maybe I'm like a lot of other guys. I'm guarded. People look at you differently. So I'm Mormon. I have a crazy good support system. I know thousands of people. In the Mormon community, they say there's like 6 degrees of separation. In the Mormon community, there's like 3 degrees of separation.
And actually it's like 0.4.
Right. But and because I have a crazy good support system there. But at the same time, it's mine. This stuff I deal with. One of the things about being a dad or being a husband, father, or whatever in the situation I'm in, nothing is yours. Your time is not yours. Your money is not yours. Your house is not, like, nothing is yours as a dad. And that's fine. But this depression or this thing I struggle with, this secret that I keep, it's mine. It's the only thing in my life that's mine. You know, when someone says you should talk to a therapist about this, or you should deal with this, or there's a fear of loss, there's a fear of losing something. It's what I know. It's who I know. In some degree, it's all I've known. It's the only thing I have in my life that's mine. And it's really stupid, because if I laid that out there, would I be giving up something that I value now, thinking that I value it, and realize that it was garbage? Like, I'm holding on to my garbage. Why would I give away my garbage? And everybody else would look at you and be like, dude, You have a house full of garbage. What are you doing? Why would you not give up your garbage?
Just before you were sharing that part, you were talking about being Mormon, being in this large community and having, quote, good support. And I thought, is it good support? Like, what do you mean by good support system?
Good support system in the sense that if I did open up, I know that I would have support.
Support to pray more? Like, what do you mean?
Honestly, I think support in a way of finding out or realizing that there are many, many, many more like me all around me.
I'm Jewish, but I never really went to any sort of regular place where we meet and gather and pray or listen or congregate and at times I envy that a lot. Even if you're not a churchgoer, having faith, I think, is a really, without knowing it, again, grass is greener. I don't know, but believing in something can be very powerful.
Any Mormons listening to this will maybe know what I'm talking about. What's funny is I joke to another one of my brothers all the time. It's like, I laugh about like, man, I hate Mormons. What I mean by that is I hate the culture. There is the gospel, which is, Jesus, God, Jesus died for your sins. He has a plan for you. He loves you. It's not much more than that. That is the gospel. And I believe that is true. And then there's the church. I hate the culture. I hate the glad handing. I hate the putting on your best face and faking it. I have a really hard time with that. And so in saying I have tons of support, if I wanted it, it's true. I tend to keep to myself to a large degree, at church or in group gatherings and stuff. I have a bunch of, core friends and like actual friends, real friends, right? And then a million acquaintances. But I know for a fact, and this is one of the things about the culture and the community, is that if I needed to move a desk or a washing machine for some reason, 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, I could make 10 phone calls and I would have 8 people show up. This puts weight on, I think, a lot of not just Mormons, but any religious person or whatever, is that people expect this of you. They expect that you should be happy and because you've got it all together and whatever. And yeah, from the outside, maybe it looks like you do, but everybody's dealing with something. Every single person you ever see is dealing with something. Like a comedian, that guy doesn't get to cry. That guy doesn't get to have bad days. He's always on. Be funny, funny man. And so in a similar sense with religious people, right? What do you mean? You're religious. You've got it all together. Your life looks perfect. And again, my life looks perfect from the outside.
Even behind you in your garage, I can see different stuff and it's like neat. Everything's neat. It looks neat. You present neat. I mean, your shirt's a little raggedy, but you're probably just doing something. I don't have sleeves, so who the fuck am I to say anything? Do you think if you went to a therapist, and I know you did as a kid, and you brought up ADD, what would you guess, if at all, what diagnoses you have, if at all? I mean, maybe you don't believe in that shit. Maybe you don't think you have any. I'm just wondering what they might say.
So even a diagnosis. So like women love diagnoses.
Ooh, we're getting hot and spicy now.
I'm sorry. My wife is guilty of this. She loves to diagnose stuff. But in the end, to me, it's stupid. I mean, yeah, okay, it can be helpful, sure. But at the end of the day, you still have to deal with it. It doesn't matter what you want to call it. Like, okay, right. So cool. You've called it something. And you've given it a name. You still need to deal with it. You still need to do something about it. So does it matter? I don't know.
Isn't the whole point to diagnose people so that you can get help with it? Isn't that like literally the whole reason? Because generally depression doesn't feel very good and you don't want to feel not so good for extended periods of time. So yeah, I'm on board with that 100%.
At the end of the day, you kind of need to deal with it yourself. And don't get me wrong, I've tried medication. Like I have talked to my doctor about it. As an adult, I've tried ADD medications and stuff for a time. And they helped for a time. And then and then I kind of find myself still dealing with similar stuff. And I kind of realize like, it's still on me. There's no magic miracle cure. And then again, going back to the doctor and I've talked to him and gotten SSRIs. I've tried SSRIs for a while. Mm-hmm. And same thing, it helps, but you're still kind of find yourself, you got to do it yourself. What's scary is, not scary, I don't know, saddening for me is like, when you find a medication that and you first start taking it, you're like, wow, this is a miracle. This is awesome. Mm-hmm. I'm a different person. But then slowly, you're like, I'm still me. I still need to do this on my own. This can help give me traction, but you still need to kind of deal with it yourself. And that's kind of saddening to some degree. I don't know how to put that. And again, so I changed medications and tried another and the same thing. And so that's partly why I kind of go about it alone is because I have to. Like even to see a therapist and stuff at the end of the day, it's on me. I got to figure it out. And are there things I'm learning through it? Yeah. Are those lessons valuable? Yeah. Do I believe that that's why we are here? Is to learn lessons? Yeah. Am I doing it the dumb way and doing it the hard way? Maybe.
Also, yeah, and I also think as we get older, you've tried this, you've tried this, you've tried that. Like, it makes sense that, let's even just like narrow it down to like therapy or medication. It makes sense that at some point you're like, okay, I've tried it. There was some benefit. The benefit faded away. I just don't want to keep trying those things. Like, I don't think they're going to work. So I'm going to just not do that anymore. But people from the outside can always say, well, in your case, they don't because you don't talk about it. But, for others, like, well, do more of the same because it's a different therapist. There's a new drug and they're not wrong. But I understand why people would be like, I'm just done with that route. I don't know. I just think it's easy to lose hope.
Don't get me wrong. There are those times, there are those dark nights of the soul where I think, like, oh, I feel like I've lost hope. But I also know that give it a day or 2 or 3 days and, I'll come out of it. And this is not for everybody. And I don't mean anything by this. And it's like, I don't want to be critical or insulting to anybody. But for me, medications and things that I've tried, it still comes down to me. Like the similar way people are like, oh, you just pray it away. Like, that's the stupidest crap I've ever heard. Like, that's not a thing. There's help there, but at the end of the day, it's still your life. You're still you. You still got to figure it out. And there's lessons to be learned through that. And so medication, I find kind of in this similar manner. Is it the be all end all that people expect it to be? No, you still got to work it out. You still got to deal with it. Can it help? Yeah, but you're still you. You still got to figure it out. You can't just medicate it away. You can't just pray it away.
It'd be cool if you could, though.
Here's another thing. It's like, does it make me who I am?
Well, why would it not?
In getting rid of it, would I lose something in myself that I didn't realize I'd lost?
So now we're getting into like identity. Yeah.
Is there something to that? I don't know.
I don't know either.
I mean, I definitely felt it with medication. I definitely felt it with SSRIs. It changed who I was. It changed my creativity. It changed my It changed my dopamine. It changed. Yes, you don't have the ups and the downs, but you're just in the middle. You don't have the reds and the blacks, but you just have grays.
Do you think because you're a husband and a father and a member of the Mormon community, and there are friends and there are people involved with the work, when you're feeling down and you're having to show up in a role in which being and or presenting really down kind of isn't, you're not okay with that, so you do what you got to do, does it help more than hurt or hurt more than help?
To put on a good face when I don't want to?
Think about your actual life and the face you do put on in those situations every day. I mean, you live with your kids, right? So, and I know every day is not the same. Some days you're doing just fine, and other days you're dipping. So
it's hard. It's super hard when I just don't have it to give, but yet you have to, or feel that you have to. Yeah, man, that's brutal. When I'm down and I have to put on that face and be that person. I mean, sometimes those things really do help. Putting your kids to bed and reading them a story and, listening to them and talk about their day and stuff like that can just often snap me right out of it. So sometimes, as much as I hate that whole like fake it till you make it, like sometimes that is a thing. Sometimes going to church, like I've always hated church. And there's the thing, you can hold two truths at the same time. Like I believe these things, I go for a reason, but I don't like going. Would I rather have my Sunday back? Yeah. I mean, even as a kid, church sucked. And still now, and I'm really open with that with my kids. It's like, this sucks. I would rather not be here, but it's good for me. It's good for there are good people here. There's a good community here. There are good morals here. Even though you struggle through that, still at the end of the day, I might not see a switch flip at any single moment, but at the end of the day, you might find like, I don't feel like I did this morning.
Of course.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Someone might not want to go to therapy. And again, I'm totally being a hypocrite here. Somebody might not want to go to therapy or might not want to take that medication every morning, but, I guess I do feel better. Yeah. And then and then next week you feel exactly the same way.
Can I read the email that you wrote me? I don't have to include it ultimately if you don't want to, but you wrote to me originally, I'm 100% normal and average, middle-aged husband and father, healthy, no trauma, good job, good family, good childhood, good support community. But I think about getting out every single day. What's wrong with me? I wonder if there are thousands of others just like me suffering in their life, which we talked a lot about in terms of the others. Like, is there anything wrong with you? Or like, and part of that means like, is thinking about getting out, whether it's every day or some days, is that a reflection of something being wrong with someone?
No, 100%. And I struggle with this too. Is it wrong with me? I don't know. Is it wrong? Is it wrong? Does it make you an idiot to look at this life, which is, I mean, life is hard, right? Even if your physical life is fine, mentally, emotionally, politically, life is not easy. This is not an easy world to live in. Because you realize that, because you recognize that life is hard, does that make you an idiot? Or does that make you a
No.
realist? Is something wrong with me? I don't know.
There were periods of time in parts of the world where this kind of thinking was 100% accepted and openly talked about. I don't believe we're just like progressively getting better as a species, as cultures. We're not. We're caught in this one now. These kinds of things are just getting pushed to the side. But the idea of wondering what the purpose of life is, and is it normal to think about ending yourself? Like, that sounds weird right now. Someone's going to write me and be like, you know nothing about history, but we're fucking soft.
Yeah, for sure.
In our ability or comfort level or openness to just all kinds of ideas. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong and maybe I'm a dick.
See, that's the thing, is that like, if this is my struggle, if this is my cross to bear, do I have the right to get rid of it? If this is my not to say only thing, but like it's the biggest, right? So if this is my cross to bear, would I trade it for being unhealthy? Would I trade it for losing a child? Would I trade it for poverty? Would I trade it for trauma? Would I trade it for abuse? Like all these other things that are out there that you could have to deal with in life, and that so many people do. I mean, if this is my cross to bear, what right do I have to decide to trade this for something else that's easier or to get rid of it? There's clearly something I have to learn through this. And this is partly why I kind of, have pushed away medication and kind of not done therapy. What if this is my cross to bear? Like, this is my life. This is what I have to deal with.
I mean, there's people hearing this, maybe not so much, I guess, this audience as much, where they'll be like, yeah, but that's what you just said. This is where we get, it's like a little gaslighty stuff. What you just said is further proof you need help. Maybe, but maybe you're wrong. When you've thought about it, did you ever get to the point where you thought about how you would do it?
Yes.
You want to tell me?
No.
Okay.
But the thing is, I won't. And this is the thing I know about myself, is that, like, do I think about it? Sure. Do I fantasize about it sometimes? Sure. But do I also realize that it doesn't make sense? And do I realize that it would hurt others? And I also realize that it would hurt me, like spiritually or whatever. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It's not the answer. And I know that. I know it's not the answer. This is weird, but like, is there a peace? Is there some kind of a peace in fantasizing about it? Like, is there a peace in fantasizing about something so harsh? Even somebody with a perfect wife, do they sit and still fantasize about some smoking hot younger chick? Sure. But you know that's not the answer. The guy knows that are you gonna throw your life away for that? I mean, hopefully not. Because if you do, you're gonna realize that, hey, guess what? She also gets old and also gets annoying or also gets whatever.
Of all the things that people are going to be annoyed about what you say, that's the one.
Well, you're like buying a vehicle. You've got a vehicle. It's, starting to have problems and stuff. Great.
Right.
You're going to trade that. You can fix it or you can trade it in. So you're going to trade it in. And in 5 years, it's going to have the same problems.
This is like saying,
or do you fix the one you have because it's the one you know? Do I deal with the life I have because it's the one that I know?
Deep questions. So you think you're going to die of old age? Or hopefully old age, I should say.
Yeah.
On average, I don't know your like daily lifestyle, but you've got like half your life to go. So let's say that's 40 more years, más o menos. I mean, what does that feel like to know that you're going to be alive for a few more decades, maybe feeling this way?
Tiring. Am I also in a stage of life right now where life is hard? Am I in the junior high of adulthood? Young kids at home, a lot on my plate. And all of a sudden you go and create, could take a permanent solution to it, and right around the corner, life got better.
Right. But you weren't around to know it. So it's all theory.
Right. I would feel more like a jackass in that regard than I would feel tired to keep taking it.
Right. Little standard cost benefit analysis. Sure. Good transition here. You ready? Pink and purple pill question. I have this pink and purple pill that I'm able to give D through my laptop. From me in the US to him in Canada. And if he takes it, he goes to sleep. It is gentle and soft. There's no pain. He does not wake up and no one knows it's a suicide. What would you do with that pill?
I hesitate because I have two minds on it. The rational mind, throws it away.
Right.
The other mind holds it until my house is paid off and my kids are grown.
Assuming things go mostly like they're going, your kids are going to grow up and your house will be paid off. I don't know when that is, but that's well short of 70 or 80 years old when most people die natural deaths in first world countries. So I asked you earlier if you're going to die a natural death, and you were like, I don't know what you said, but I think it was leaning towards probably. That's a different answer.
This is the hard part, is I feel like I live this life of having, an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other. So what do I say? What do I
Right.
say? I throw it away. Live till old age. What do my demons say? What does my depression say? Your usefulness is a paycheck. And when that requirement of you is fulfilled, there's no longer a reason to be here. Right. And I know the real me knows that that's irrational and that's completely stupid and whatever, but it's still real. I mean, and that's the thing is, people who don't know or don't understand these feelings, I mean, people can just say like, just snap out of it or just pray it away or just be happy, right? Those who know, you know that those thoughts are not real. You know, these are just thought distortions, but they're real. They're so real.
When's your house paid off?
5 to 10 years, somewhere in there.
Just curious. It's interesting that you the second email you wrote, you were on the fence, wanted some time to think about it, asked me for some convincing, which I said is not my jam. And then you scheduled. So like that was interesting that there must have been a like, fuck it, let's do it moment.
Yeah. Again, listening to the podcast and your demeanor and how you understand these thoughts yourself and ask questions without judgment. I don't know. Here's the thing. Out of all the people I know in my life who I could probably bring this to, I don't know if I know any of them that I could say this stuff to and get like a perfectly perfect lack of judgment. Maybe even judgment's not the right word, but to never look at me and view me the same, right? Or always worry about, I don't want to be a charity case. I don't want to be someone that somebody looks at constantly and worries about. I reached out because, again, a lot of the stuff the guests I'd listened to had talked about big traumas and stuff like that in their lives that had led them to these places. And I don't have that. I am, I think, a totally normal guy with just a messed up head. And again, thinking there's probably a lot of guys out there like me and people who maybe need to hear this. If I'm going to be here, I guess be helpful. But again, it's the only thing I have that's mine. I've never talked about it with anybody, not to this degree. I have had suicidal thoughts. I have thought about this. I have laid awake at night and considered if I should walk out the door and not come back or just not come home. There's a line there where you can say some of those things to people, and there's a line where you can't say those things to people.
Sure.
Without being looked at. Even though I have a big support community and stuff, there's a certain line there where I stay guarded. There's no coming back from it. When you say, and this is why I respect your guests so much in your podcast, is how much balls it takes to say, hey, I've had a suicide attempt. Let me tell you about it. That's wild for someone like you to just talk openly, be like, yeah, I think about it all the time. Here I am. Here's my life. Take it or leave it. And then to open yourself up to all these guests and these people to call it, and then you support them without judgment. There are very few people in this world that can do what you're doing.
Just so I appreciate that, number one, but just so we're clear, don't think this is how I am all the time. And I try, but it's easy. We're not friends. I've created this little space where it actually makes it easier for me to be that way. And yes, I'll give myself credit for being that way. Yeah. I don't know what my point was. I just want to deflect any compliments, I suppose. So when this comes out, and it'll probably take a few months, do you think I know you aren't sure, do you think you will listen to it?
Yeah.
That might be an interesting experience.
Yeah, probably. Well, this is why I went back and forth with you and hesitated. And even last night, I laid awake. Is this something I actually want to do? Is this something I actually want to put out there? For something I've never told anybody, I'm going to tell everybody what's wrong with me.
Yeah,
it's okay. It's okay to tell everybody anonymously, but nobody personally.
That's interesting in and of itself. It makes sense, though. I have no memoir title for you yet. Do you have one?
I was thinking about this the other day.
I have ideas, but I figured I'd ask you.
What are your ideas?
Well, one of them would be related to the thing we can't talk about because it's related to work. These aren't titles. These are just certain words that flash in my head. There's something very powerful about the OGIG, but I don't think that's really part of a memoir title. I'll think about it. The only other thing I wanted to ask you was specifically around myths or misconceptions around maybe things you've heard on the podcast. Or is there anything you want to call bullshit on or dispel?
Maybe the same one everybody says. When you're in that space, whether it's real or not, when you're in that space, the selfishness doesn't seem selfish. Because again, when I listen to the podcast, I think about that, right? I think about what my answer to that would be. And I would say that is probably the only thing I've found. One of the things I've found, so we talked before about there's the gospel of Jesus Christ, which is hope and love and patience. And then there's the church. along with that comes a lot of perfectionism. Like it's really easy to slip into like the toxic perfectionism. And I think that's with any religion. What I have found, and this is over the last couple of years, some of the personal beliefs that I have, if I were to talk about them with other church members, they would probably look at me with like a weird look. Mormons like to talk that this life is kind of like the be all and all. What you do in this life will make or break your eternity. And I don't think that's true at all. Personally, my personal belief, we have lived and will live as many lives as we choose to or need to in order to learn the things that we have chosen for ourselves that we need to learn. I guess in that sense that like this life doesn't matter. This life doesn't matter as much as we make it seem. There's grace. There's grace there. There's grace.
Yeah.
There. And so for me, that has helped a lot in the sense that like the grace is not really a term that we use in our church a lot. I don't know why. It just isn't.
I'm not sure you're a Mormon. Actually, I'm not actually sure you're a Mormon. This is not a Mormon podcast, religion podcast. I understand that you're Mormon, but like there are lots of components of it, particularly on the church side, that aren't jiving with you.
And this is the thing. Is, should I get rid of this? Should I get rid of this depression? Because it has led me to these, I would say it has led me to a closer relationship with God. And so this is why I say, like, I'm totally fine to go to church and sit at the back. I know I have a community around me and stuff, but like, I don't need to be friends with everybody or whatever. I'm not there for them. The things I do for myself. And that being the case, I think, would other people look at me and be like, oh, this guy's got different beliefs than me, or this guy sees things in a different way? I mean, and they would probably be put off by that. Probably. It comes down to my relationship. What's my relationship with myself? Or what's my relationship with the gospel? Or if those things take the perfectionism away and give me some grace, that's a benefit.
Probably a lot of people in your church who feel similarly, especially men who don't talk. I bet you're not alone there, but you guys just don't talk about it. I'm not saying you should.
The struggle that I have has brought me to a place where of realizing that there's grace, having grace for myself, and I guess patience with myself, patience with others, and realizing that like everything in this life is permissible, but not everything in this life is beneficial. If it's between going and using mushrooms in order to have an experience that's going to help me, or killing myself, the mushrooms are a lot better of an option. But there are some others in my community who would look at you and be like, oh my gosh, mushrooms, oh my goodness. Like, and I've never used drugs really. I don't know, I've never drank, I've never used drugs really. Not so much that I'm against it in that sense of like, oh, this is a thing we do for church. I don't have that type of personality. I have some mushrooms and they're there.
Wait a second. Why would you have mushrooms?
I was doing work for some hippie guy one time, and he's like, you want some mushrooms? And I was like, sure.
The following potential memoir title, which isn't the best, but you said something that resonated. It would need a very strong subtitle, admittedly. You said, should I get rid of this? And I thought that's an interesting, I don't always love questions as memoir titles, but should I get rid of this? Not the right answer, but I think we might be moving in the right direction because I think it applies to more than one thing in your life.
Everything has some benefit. Everything in life. If you can direct it in the right way and manage it.
Like you said earlier on, life is hard. Do
I get rid of this? Or do I make it easier? Would it be nice? Maybe. Do I even know what that's like? I don't know. Am I afraid of what that's like? Yeah. Would I possibly lose some of myself or some of my vision or talent or whatever, Maybe.
Maybe not.
But for now, I'm managing.
What else you want to share, man? I'm good on my end. No more questions.
When you see someone who looks like they've got an Instagram life, they're dealing with something. Have grace for that, I guess.
Hey, real quick digression, sort of. After D and I got off the phone, he emailed me back a few days later. I wanted to share the conversation that we ultimately had again after that email. So we talked, and then you emailed me. I'm just sort of sharing this for the audience. And then you emailed me shortly after. I don't have it in front of me, but you kind of had some realizations or something, yeah?
It was funny because maybe it's divine intervention. I don't know. But right after we had talked, like literally right after we had talked and I had hung up, my brother had messaged me. He sent me some kind of sarcastic message, kind of talking about some annoyance with his wife. He's like, man, why is it that she'll drive the van? He's like, I don't really drive the van, but like she'll drive the van all the time. And then I get in the van and I haven't driven it for, a month or two. And it's making all these noises and it's grinding and all this stuff. And he's like, hey, what the heck? How long has the van been making these noises? And she's like, oh, I don't know. I thought that's just how it was. I thought those were just the noises it makes. And he's like, what? No, it's not supposed to sound like that. And as I'm kind of reading his text that he sent me, I was like, I maintain all my stuff. I would never even let a lawnmower get that way. And then I thought to myself, I have been doing this with my life. The last, 10 years or so, I have been like, I don't know, that's just the grinding sound it makes. That's just how I am. That's just how my life is. That's just how my brain is. But yet I would never do that with even a lawnmower, but yet I allow my life to be like that. I need to talk to somebody. And so, I mean, it took everything I had, and I'm sure 90% of the people listening to this podcast will know what I'm talking about. But man, it took everything I had to sit down with my wife and say, I think I need help. And, so she was super supportive, which was awesome. And she said, I support you. If you need help finding a therapist or something like that, or somebody to talk to, I'm here for you and we'll figure it out. The next day I called a friend. I have a friend and I know that he's got family members and stuff who have gone through a lot. I think his brother had had a suicide attempt, and I know his dad struggled with depression and stuff. And so talked to him about it and just said, hey, I need to talk to somebody. This is what's going on. Do you know anybody do you know a good therapist? Do you know people through, the situations you've been around and stuff? And he's like, I absolutely do. And so he set me up with somebody, and next week I'm going to start talking to somebody.
That's your first go at something like this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I hope it goes well. I really do. It's really interesting to hear. So on the same day we talked, it could be total coincidence. Who knows? But on the same day we talked, you got that text message. There's always a possibility of divine intervention. And I think maybe after people talk about this stuff, there might be like a different headspace when they receive a text like that. Who knows?
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, he's complaining about his van, and I'm like, I just had this realization, like, dude, you have been doing that with your entire life.
Yeah, I'm the van. Wow. So if we have an update episode in a year or whatever, I want to hear more.
Well, and I can't lie. I am still a little worried, right? Oh, over the last 10 years, I've used different medications and stuff like that. And, like I said before, you still come back to that realization that it's all on you. And so, I mean, there is a bit of trepidation there that's still, what if it doesn't work? Or what if,
right.
I mean, I'm still going to have ups and downs, no different than I do now. I have I'm realistic about that. It's not like butterflies and rainbows now, but, right now I feel hopeful.
By the way, if your life was butterflies and rainbows, I don't think you'd like it.
Right?
I mean, I don't know much about you. People have all kinds of different sides to themselves or personas, but I'm looking at a man who's got a gazillion tools behind him. I don't think you're a rainbows and unicorn guy is your ideal anyway.
No, it's definitely not. I mean, maybe this is still my lot in life. I'm not looking for a cure because I do honestly still think that this is my lot in life. This is something I'm supposed to struggle with and learn from. Do I need to struggle alone? Maybe that's just prideful. Maybe that's just idiotic.
All right, man. I'm glad you got I'm glad you got a supportive partner.
Yeah, she's awesome.
And it's been several days since you made that phone call and made that appointment. So, like, at any time you could have backed out.
It has been hard, It's been hard. It was hard to tell my wife. I mean, and it's weird. It's really weird because it was like telling her I was cheating on her or something like that. Like, I imagine that's what it would be like to, tell your wife some giant secret. But that's what it was. It's what it felt like. It felt like telling her a giant secret. And it took everything I had. And then it took everything I had to call my friend. And it just got to a point where I was like, I had thought about it. Before I changed my mind, I just had to make that call or send that text. Like once it's sent, you've pressed send and now you're in. I mean, same with emailing you.
That's cool, man. I appreciate you sharing all that with me and I hope it goes well.
Yeah, me too.
Enjoy that conversation with your potentially new therapist. Paso a paso in Spanish, step by step, I guess,
Yeah, thanks, bud.
Take care.
Bye.
As always, thanks so much for listening and all of your support. Special thanks to Dee in Canada. Thanks, Dee. If you are a suicide attempt survivor, near attempt survivor, an ideator, and you'd like to talk, I'd love to talk with you. Please reach out. The easiest way, hello@suicidenoted.com. Check out our weekly poll on Spotify, or if you are on Apple and you're not a Spotify person, you can rate and review this podcast. It helps people find it. And of course, we want more people to find it because they're out there and they need to hear this stuff. I'd like to believe. And that is all for this week's episode. Stay strong. Do the best you can. I'll talk to you soon.